have received at least one dose, and 44% have received both doses. And when you think about Ohio, we have about 47% of our population that has received a dose, and then about 43% have received both doses. So we're not doing too bad in Ohio in comparison to the nation. But one of the things that comes up quite often is the rules in terms of, if I'm vaccinated, should I wear a mask? If I'm not vaccinated, should I wear a mask? How do I know if someone is infected by COVID when I'm in public? There's a lot of different things out there. And then obviously the state of Ohio, we are no longer bound by the restrictions that we had before, but then you may have different rules in different counties. You may have various rules based on the store that you visit. And so, it's important that even though you don't have to wear a mask because of the state rule, being aware that you should always have a mask if you go to a particular store, because on the sign they're going to tell you we require a mask, and unfortunately, if you don't have one on, they're not going to let you in. The last point I want to make in terms of statistics or important information is that COVID vaccinations are free, and so whether you have insurance or you don't have insurance, there is no fee to get a COVID vaccination. If someone's trying to charge you, you don't need to be worried about that. You should be able to go somewhere else and get your vaccine. We highly encourage the vaccine, but we also know that people have to make their own choices. In fact, as we think about a conversation that my wife and we were a part of a few weeks back, we were on a call with a number of individuals. And during that call, the conversation came up about people and whether they should be vaccinated or not. And it was really interesting. I remember my wife and we just kind of sat back and listened. But the conversation got really personal because there were those in the camp of everyone should be vaccinated. And if you don't vaccinate, you don't care about me. And then there were those that were in the I'm not going to vaccinate, and I should have I should be able to do what I want to do because I'm an American citizen. I have the right to choose. And so it was just a really dynamic conversation, really strong opinions on both sides. I felt like it was almost like a Republican Democratic debate in terms of how heated it was getting. But this is the state of the world that we're in now. And so when you think about going back to work, going back to school for our kids, and even going to church, and then not knowing who's vaccinated and who is vaccinated, who's not vaccinated, we have to figure out as a people how we're going to deal with that situation and not discriminate against those who may choose not to vaccinate. Everyone has their own choice to make in that space. So, media team, if you wouldn't mind, I want you to pull up that slide from the CDC really quickly, because again, a lot of our conversation is going to center around vacation plans,
right,
summer plans, and those things, as well as, what people have planned. And so when you think about what the CDC has talked about in terms of whether you should wear a mask or not, the CDC website has all kinds of information available on there. And if you have any questions about any scenario, go to cdc.gov. We wanted to put this slide in front of you because it really talks about if you decide to travel domestically, and they have information if you go overseas, but this particular slide is about domestic travel, the things that you want to be aware of. And so, for example, if you're vaccinated, you want to self-monitor for symptoms while you're away, and then wear a mask and take other precautions while you travel. Those are the rules they have for those that are vaccinated. For those that are not vaccinated, there's a different set of rules. You want to get tested 1 to 3 days before you travel. You want to get tested 3 to 5 days after travel, and then self-quarantine for 7 days, as well as monitor your symptoms and wear a mask and the like. So it's important to know, whatever side of the fence you're on, know the rules of the game, and then also be aware of, we have Ohio rules, but the rules may be different in Florida. They may be different in California or wherever you decide to go. So just being aware of those different things. So I think at this point, what we'd like to do is we're going to introduce our panelists in just a moment. But I think, are we ready for the video?
Yeah, we are. So, again, you've got some good information that Carlos gave you. And again, we know that it's a very, very personal decision because not only are those that want to get the vaccine or not, but there are some medical conditions that can prohibit some people or make it very difficult for people to get the vaccine. So, while we have said that we are proponents of the vaccination, we definitely understand that people are just in different spaces. And that's why it's important for us to show the slide of what to do and what not to do so that, again, we are taking a look at what the CDC says, because it's easy to think about what they say. You know who they are. They are those people who have determined that they know everything about the COVID vaccine and they're just going to let you know. But we really want to make sure that we're listening to factual information and paying attention to, that what the doctors and the CDC is saying. And speaking of doctors, we have a short video that is going to talk a little bit more about when will the COVID-19 pandemic be over. We tried to look for something that would speak to what everyone's feeling right now. I would love to just go out and not have a mask and be around people, but we know that we're not out of the woods with the COVID and what's happening with people. And so as we enter these summer months, we just want to take a look at the video. And then once we come back, we will just talk to our wonderful panelists that we have with us this evening and just get into some really good dialogue around summer plans and things moving forward. So we're ready for the video.
What everyone wants to know is, when will this COVID-19 pandemic come to an end?
And media team, we can't hear the video.
It will take 70 to 85% of the population being vaccinated in order to bring this pandemic to an end. This will be even higher when we consider that children are not currently eligible, so adults need to make an even higher effort to be vaccinated. Where does this 70 to 85% number come from? If you take a look at the pathogens that cause human disease, there is something that we measure contagiousness by, and this is called the reproductive number. This is the amount of people that one contagious person will infect if everybody around them is susceptible to that disease. For example, if you take a look at measles, which is the most infectious pathogen known to man, you can see that one person will infect 12 to 18 other people. The number for COVID-19 is repeatedly 5. That is, one person who's contagious will infect 5 other individuals if they're all susceptible. If you take a look at this graph, you can take a look at the other pathogens that have a reproductive number around 5, and you can see that the vaccine coverage that is needed in your family, in your community, in your state, in the country, in the world, is going to need to be about 70 to 85% coverage. What if we don't reach that coverage? What if we don't reach 70 to 85% vaccination? What we know right now is that people are being very, very careful. This latest winter surge was really devastating. Lots of hospitalizations, lots of people died. Because of this, cases are falling. And one of the greatest concerns, even though we're very excited that cases are falling, is that people may become complacent. People might think, oh, the cases are falling. And as the season changes, as the weather warms up, as the days become longer and summer comes, the cases are very, very likely to go to near zero, just like they did last fall. But will it really be gone? What will happen if people say, oh, see, I didn't need to worry. See, I didn't need to become vaccinated. What will happen is that next winter, if we do not reach 70 to 85% vaccination, COVID-19 will in fact resurface as a seasonal virus, just like everybody expected. If you remember this past winter, everyone expected that COVID-19 would rear its head at 3 times, 4 times, 5 times the peak of what we saw in the summer, and that's exactly what happened. So it will come back again, and it will produce nursing home outbreaks, community outbreaks, and a lot of hospitalizations and death if we cannot protect the population in time. How do we know that this is likely to be true? Many of us remember the H1N1 flu pandemic of 2009. What we don't realize is after vaccination, For at least 8 years after H1N1's pandemic came to an end, H1N1 was the dominant flu strain that produced hospitalization and death year after year, every winter season. This is why we're very concerned about getting everybody vaccinated before the next winter season starts to allow COVID-19 to spread again. It will take us years to bring it under control if we cannot get very, very high community vaccination rates. Can I stop masking the moment I'm vaccinated? There's lots of people who are just aching to be able to return to normalcy. But right now, we need to remember that this pandemic affects us in a way that we need to behave together. This is a pandemic of a contagious virus. And because it's contagious, we have to do everything we can to act and behave in a group behavior to be able to protect ourselves. This SARS-CoV-2 virus is going to wax and wane by the season and based upon human behavior and the speed that we can get vaccines distributed. Public health will eventually decide when it is safe to stop masking. This is likely when the cases fall to very low levels and when the vaccine uptake is substantially high enough to ensure that we are all protected. We are in this pandemic together. We need to encourage good behavior, and we need to protect one another until we can get the vaccine to very high levels.
All right. There was a lot of information in that video. And, we're lucky enough at Faith Ministry Church where, normally we have folks that are specific to the conversation that we're going to have. We've had police officers, we've had mental health professionals. Today, we have friends that are going to be with us that are going to give us some information and share their perspective on the topic that we have here. And really where this idea came from was Seneca and I were just sitting around and just saying, like, what are we going to do this summer? What is it going to be like when we go back to work? And we said, man, I bet a lot of folks are probably wondering the same thing. We should have a conversation with friends about this. So we invited our friends. So we have the Chaffins, James and Sherry Chafin, and we also have Phil, the Callaways. Thank y'all so much for being with us tonight.
Yes, love to have good conversation.
Wonderful. Well, so let's dive in. Obviously, Seneca and I had a chance to open up with some statistics, and then we also showed the video that we just watched there. And so just wanted to kind of get your reactions from both of those as it relates to vacationing over the summer. We'll start with the Chaffins. What were your thoughts about the video and about the CDC recommendations?
And behave smartly and make sure that we are protecting ourselves, even if we are vaccinated.
That's true. That is true. I always say it's really weird that it took a pandemic for people to practice good habits, because I've always been germaphobe. Yes. Same question. Whomever wants to jump in about your reactions.
Of course, me. I do think that there are those precautions that we still need to take. Masking, like I still mask more so indoors. And we have an 11-year-old who is not vaccinated because they haven't targeted that age group yet. So I kind of think of it in terms of I'm still protecting her and anybody else that I come in contact with, although I'm fully vaccinated. And I do think, like things are turning around and looking better, but some precautions still need to be taken for that reason.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I'm in total agreement with everything that's being said. A lot of times we want to get back to the normalcy. You want to get back to normal, but to get back to normal, we got to be precaution on what we do. And so when we go out, I still wear my mask when I'm in Kroger's. I see people without their mask and whatever, but I'm gonna still bring my mask. And then when I do go into the office, we have our masks on and everything. So just want to be cautious on what we do and going forward, because we don't want like right now everything is going down, down, down. We don't want it to turn and go back up the other direction, and then we be on lockdown and stuff like that again. So I think precautions and everybody getting the vaccine, if you're, like you said, able to or okay in getting it, and I think it's a good thing to do.
What do you think about some districts are now speaking out saying that they are not going to require masks, that it is like schools, it's optional whether they want to wear them or not. Any thoughts on that?
Yes. We do have 3 educators here.
That is the case in my district. We're doing summer intervention right now, and that has been the decision that it is optional for students and staff to wear masks. I choose to keep my mask on because there are kids who still want to wear their masks, and as a role model, like, it's okay to still wear your mask. You don't have to unmask if you don't want to. So, but it is optional in our district if we wear masks or not. Most staff have been vaccinated, but again, because the kids are so small, I'm in an elementary environment, so the kids are so small they can't be vaccinated. So I feel that it's important to continue to wear my mask to make sure that we are as safe as possible.
Yes.
And I love that you said you keep your mask on to be a role model, because I do think that sometimes kids, if they see everyone without a mask on, and even if they want to have a mask on, they may take it off because of that peer pressure. I believe in our district, they are requiring the mask to be on when they are inside. We stuck with the rule of school, the end of the school year. But I do know, I read a report that moving into next year, they are going to allow, I think they're going to be optional next year. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
As we about that, Miss Keisha. I know you're with the little kids. So, yeah,
I have the second graders, so
yeah,
I'm sure they'll be like ecstatic. I had quite the hard time with kids wanting to take them off throughout the day when we went back to hybrid. So I think some will still, like Sherry said, some will still wear the mask, and I think some will be like, thank goodness I can just breathe and be open. So I think I'll get a little bit of both, but I did have to constantly remind them of the safety precautions, during the school year. Even when we were out for recess, it was still mandatory. So I had to remind a lot.
Yeah, and with older kids.
Yeah, I was gonna jump in real quick. Sorry, just say that it's, to me, it's kind of interesting that we keep talking about normal when it's. I think the video, the doctor in the video, the epidemiologist, what she showed us is that it's still going to be a new normal, because we're always going to have the memory of COVID-19, right? Especially for people like us, where we have extended family members that either got very sick, and a couple of them died, from COVID-19 complications. I mean, it's not something you can just erase from your memory. So the normal is still going to be new. It's not going to be like it was. It's not going to be 2019, 2018. It's still going to be a new normal. And just like many of us have been saying, I mean, so they drop all the precautions at my job. I go into a building, but I don't care. I'm still wearing a mask when I leave the house, and whenever I leave my desk, I have my mask on. Any type of congregate setting in the little lounge or whatever, the little kitchen area at work, or little break room, I should say, I still have it on. Others don't. but that's their choice. But it's also like, but just like that's their choice to not wear one, it's my choice to wear one because I'm still not comfortable with not wearing it, even though I've been I'm fully vaccinated and things. So I think that, just like the conversation you brought up earlier, Brother Bing, is just that, I think we got to keep thinking about how the decisions we're making are impacting the others, whether it's in the church congregate setting or even the work setting, school setting. Just, think about that a little bit more deeply.
Yes. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I agree because my mask is on. So thinking about the summer, do you all have plans this summer? You bring up a good point because it is a new normal. So the things that we would normally do, I know people have family reunions and all of those things, and we've kind of paused on some of those things or scaled back in different ways. So I'll start with the Callaways this time. What are some of the things that you're thinking about this summer?
Oh, Keisha, you might be muted.
We can't hear you.
You muted me.
Sorry about that.
Okay. We're not planning a summer vacay because we're in the process of building a house. So that's the fun part that's going on with us. But if we could, we definitely would probably do something domestic. Maybe a state over or something close to home. And I'm speaking for myself. I'm more comfortable outdoors, not wearing a mask and keeping distance. But as far as being in close quarters and being indoors, I try to do that with fidelity and wear my mask. But we're open to cookouts and outdoor activities, or maybe there's some music going on in a park or something like that. That's probably the extent of what we'll be seeing, like creating some fun near home.
Yes. Yes. Well, congratulations on building your house. That is fun.
Thank you.
What about vacations? Do you have any plans this summer?
We do. So end of the month we'll go visit my sister and niece and her family in Chicago. So that'll be a little weekend thing. Thankfully, our whole house is all vaccinated except for the niece who is going to be turning 5. But that'll be like the first trip out of state that we've taken in a very, 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 very long time. So, but we're excited about seeing her because we haven't seen my sister and her family since 2019. 2019, we didn't see her all last year. So we got that coming up, and then we'll do like our little crew. We'll be doing a little weekend in Cincinnati and things. And to Keisha's point, most of the stuff we're going to do is going to be outdoors. So it'll be Kings Island. It'll be a Reds game, that kind of thing. And then I'm trying to see if we can convince the girls to do the zoo. I don't know if they're going to want to do that or not. But the good news, and I kind of add this, the good news is that we don't even have to tell the girls to mask up. I mean, they're even sometimes more diligent than we are, reminding us when we leave the house that if you're going to Costco, if you're going to Kroger, if you're going to a place where there might be a lot of people and things, to make sure you mask up. So it'll just be a weekend. It's not going to be like what we've done in the past with family reunions and like have an extended vacation, on the East Coast or anything like that. But it'll just be a little something. So to Keisha's point, it's local. We're not headed down to Florida or any place like that, no place far away. We're just trying to do a couple little small things, but most of that stuff will be outdoorsy type activities.
That's good. That's good. Well, hopefully you're convincing your friend over here because he's not going anywhere. Denver the other week, and he was a nervous wreck at dinner, okay? And the lady next to us sneezed, and I thought he was going to pack everything up to go home. So that's kind of where we are. Yeah.
That is so true. Yeah, I admit I am a bit paranoid. My staff knows that I don't do a lot of things outside, but I'm becoming more comfortable. We were eating indoors. That was a bit uncomfortable. So I'm growing, but this is the time for change. I'm trying to adjust. As James said, as you all have said, we have to be really careful and cautious as we move forward.
Mhm.
This conversation makes me think about last summer, and I know for us, we had to be really, really creative in terms of activities in the house because we couldn't go anywhere. We were in the house for the summer.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering for both of you couples, like in terms of what you're doing in the house, how does this summer differ from last summer? We'll start with the Shakins. Like, what sort of things are different this year that thinking back to last year, that you can do now that you couldn't do last year at your house?
Well, I can talk about our girls. So we have Maya and Mariah, who are 17 and 13. So this summer, they're actually involved in cheerleading. So they have practices outside. They're able to go to practice this summer, that they were not last summer. Maya is even going to be in a camp. She's going to a film camp. So that's something that she'll be able to do. So they're able to dabble in a little more activities this summer. Mariah is in a camp, but hers is virtual. So that was something last summer. We did a lot of virtual things. But this year, they're able to go outside a little bit more, but we still, I'm more of an inside person anyway, so we still continue to do our puzzles that we love. We're always singing and dancing around here, so some of that stuff is still the same from last summer and this summer, but we are able to venture out a little bit more this year.
Okay. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yes. What about the Callaways? What about your activities?
Well, hopefully we won't be doing more puzzles. So we did a lot of puzzles last year.
And games, board games.
There was a lot of puzzles being done. But Ryan right now, she's in a little summer camp up at Spruce Run, so she's enjoying that. It's an outdoor activity for her.
Oh yeah.
Just hopefully, just like you said, just get out. We got the opportunity to drive down to Cincinnati and visit some family that we haven't seen in over a year. So that was just good, just to get away and see people, lay your eyes on people.
That was major. We hadn't seen them in a year and a half, and
so
my cousin shut it down. Yeah, she was like, nope, no activities. So she kind of waited till everybody was vaccinated, and then we had a small gathering.
Other than that, just where we can get out, just like you said, go to the park, go walking. We didn't started walking more now, so that's more something that we're trying to get more into and get Ryan out. And I'm planning on taking her to Kings Island this year too, so that would be something we're trying to do this summer.
Yes.
Very cool.
That's awesome. You said Ryan is at Spruce Run. Woo! I'm sure the cicadas are terrible out there.
Yes. She's in the art exploration. So every day I'm getting pictures of snails, salamanders, or whatever. I mean, like all kind of exploration type stuff that she's picking up, and she's all in.
And I'm shocked that she's doing that too. Because she don't like bugs.
Nope.
She don't like bugs. Her doing this is really a challenge or a change for her.
Mm-hmm.
That is fantastic if she does not like bugs, because I've been to Spruce one time, and no thank you. Because
Yeah.
Yes. Goodness, what are we doing? Our boys are both working now, so they are going to be juniors and seniors, so they don't have much time for us, but our summer plans will be a lot around here, and we'll try to get him out a little bit, so we'll see.
Okay. Well, so in terms of vacation plans, when you think about the summer plans, and we may have touched on this a little bit, but like, what kind of things give you pause? Again, y'all heard from me. I don't do anything, but that's just because I'm paranoid about the whole thing, and so that gives me a lot of pause. What kind of things, when you think about the pandemic and the planning, what creates pause as you think about those plans that you're developing?
I'll tell you, a pause for me right now is, I know my family ready to get on a plane, but I don't know if I'm ready to get on a plane yet, because it's close knit. And we all vaccinated except for my daughter. And once she come of age, then she would get hers. And I like to travel. I don't mind being around people, but I don't want to be in a close vicinity, So I think flying right now would be a little bit nervousing for me. So I'm not sure if that's something I can do right now. But if we can drive there, I'm good. I'll drive us there. But I don't know about flying yet.
I think I would soar. I guess I'm a little opposite. Like, I understand where he's coming from, but I could use a plane ride. I could use a vacation. But as I said, we have other priorities. I would just mask up and fly high.
I think I'm with Philip, though. I think I'm not ready for a plane yet. I've known other people who have gone on planes and everything has been fine, but I'm not ready to fly yet. So,
yeah.
I think we just recently got. Go ahead, Carlos.
No. I was going to say I know some folks who have flown, and they were nervous, but they took pictures while they were in the plane and said it looked safe and sent them to me. Still didn't convince me though. I'm not flying right now. So yeah, maybe down the road. Maybe down the road.
Right. Well, I mean, it took us until. Right. It took us like till the summer just to even think about being comfortable being in a hotel. Because we're months here, like not even staying in a hotel, not getting on the plane, train. It took some time, and then like when we just got some information. What was it? Maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, it came down from I believe the CDC about surfaces and how the new information about contract COVID-19 from surfaces and things like that. There's less of a risk. Blah blah blah. Right. So that helped. And kind of thinking, easing some of the concern about staying in a hotel, because you don't know who's been in there, who stayed in there before you got there, and all that, and then trusting the whole deep cleaning messaging and all that. But yeah, we just now got around to the place of being comfortable being in even a hotel and things. But I'd also add that just anything that where folks gonna be packed in. I mean, just a concert, no. I mean, things like that. Just any packed type of event or something like that, I wouldn't be comfortable going to anything like that.
I agree, because I see, sometimes on the news where some of these clubs are packed to capacity with people all over the place. And I just think, oh, that looks like a super spreader event. So, yeah. Oh.
Yes. Yeah, it's definitely, it's like y'all said, we got to take the right precautions, and to each his own. And eventually we'll get back to the fun stuff that we used to do. But right now, it's kind of limited right now. So I think what we want to do now is sort of transition the conversation from vacation plans to really talking about going back to work. I know that recently there's been a lot of, again, the regulations have changed, and so things are beginning to loosen up. People are returning back to work. And so what we want to do, we're going to show a quick video. And in the video is actually one of our guests from the last couple of counseling, Ezekiel Peebles. He was interviewed by 10 TV, and he was able to share some tips and tricks as folks get ready to return to work. So media team, if you wouldn't mind showing that video, we can do that and then keep the questions going.
Tonight, we are hearing from former House Speaker Larry Householder. He testified in front of a House committee today about if he should lose his legislative seat. The representative is currently facing federal charges.
Oh, they put it back on us. Maybe there was a glitch with the video. It's okay. If they bring it back up, we'll play the video. But if not, we can tell you about the video really quickly, and then we can jump into the rest of the conversation. But essentially, 10TV interviewed Ezekiel Peoples, and what he talked about was that it's okay to be anxious and feel anxious about going back to work. That's totally normal. But you want to be prepared. You want to put yourself in the best position. You want to be able to recognize that people are going to do things differently than you will, and don't put yourself in a situation where you're arguing with coworkers because they decided to be a little looser. As Seneca mentioned earlier, we all know that coworker that didn't wash their hands before. They probably are doing the same thing now. This isn't the time to, pick a fight with somebody because they're behaving differently. It's just an opportunity for us to do better in terms of making sure that, we're washing our hands and washing the surfaces, and, just being careful, just being as precautious as possible, but also acknowledging that you may feel anxious and that that's okay, because that's completely normal. As long as that anxiety doesn't put you in a situation where you're not doing the things that you would normally do. And that's when, as therapists, we would say that might be a problem. But as long as you're still able to go to work, it's okay to acknowledge that you're anxious, and there's some tips and tricks that he shared in that video that can be helpful. And I'll share one of them, and then we'll jump into the questions here. But one of those tips that he provided in the video was, and it's a real simple one, and we always talk about it, but when you feel anxious, take a deep breath. Breathe in, count to 3, hold your breath for a moment, and then let it out. And you'll be so surprised if you keep doing that over and over again for like a minute or two, how your heart rate will decrease to where it should be versus it being elevated, and just how your mental state will be in such a better place. I know that oftentimes we talk about the importance of deep breathing, and people are like, oh, that doesn't work. It honestly, truly works. And so whenever you're feeling anxious about anything, one of the basic things you can do is take some deep breaths and relax. So, you want me to ask the second question? Go ahead.
So one question I will ask, because we do have people that have been back in the office. What was your initial feeling when you kind of got the news, or you knew that you would be going back? Because, a lot of us are around a lot of people. And so, just kind of walk us through that, or give us a little bit about how you felt when you were having to go back. So Mrs. Chafin, I will come to you first.
Yes, well, I've really been back to work for quite some time. So we did have schools closed as far as March, I think, was concerned, back last year, 2 years ago last year. So everybody was closed down. But then when we got to the new school year in August, all teachers were actually in the building. So students were not there, but teachers had to go back starting in August. So for me, lots of prayer. I prayed. I stayed in my space to make sure people were not close to me. But I felt okay. I felt at peace because I had prayed. I was doing all that I could do, and I was letting the Lord take care of the rest. So we had just teachers, and then once kids came back, it was the cohort. So we had the hybrid. We had half at school and half at home. So it wasn't as many students there. And again, you just have to take your precautions and do what you can do, and then let the Lord do the rest. So as we started, we couldn't do the vaccination. But once we could, again, I do my part. My part is to get my vaccine, let the Lord do the rest. So I went ahead and did that. But definitely we have to take care of our part, do what we are able to do, and move from there. But yeah, we've been back. I've been back at work.
That's August. Wow. Okay. What about you, James, Mr. Chafin?
Yeah, well, so what's interesting with me is, interesting for me is that I went from a job where I was working from home to a job where I had to go in the office. So laid off from one job where I'm telecommuting, unless I was traveling. So I was working from home for a very, very long time. Then I get hired at a job where I have to go into an office. So it was eye-opening for several reasons. In general, like, wait a minute, I have to go and see these people? What is this all about? I wasn't used to that. I was used to having a supervisor several states away. But anyway, it was strange. It was strange going, from a job, a telecommuting job, to a job that you had to go into a building in the midst of a pandemic. And at that time, obviously, that was last year, that was last summer. So everybody was masked up. There were no vaccines. There was none of that. It was just social distancing, hand washing, spacing of desks, all that stuff, 6 feet apart, all that, right? And then getting to a place now where we're reverting back to pre-pandemic seating and no masks and things like that. And just as Sherry was saying earlier, things just kind of modeling what I feel is responsible behavior is to continue to wear my mask and things and then also to give people the understanding that, like, I am really not that comfortable with you all up in my face, even if you are fully vaccinated and things. You know what I mean? It's just to me, it's just, I think the responsible thing to do is just kind of wear that mask. It's not a big deal. It's not a whole lot of work to be able to do that. So that, again, there's still more information, more data that's got to come out, so much to be learned. And as the epidemiologist that we listed a little earlier was talking about, we're really trying to avoid winter of 2020, right? So we're not there yet. And so until we get a little bit closer there and things, I think we'll still be, our whole house will still be masking up. So work is different, but in some ways for me, it's still the same in terms of protecting me and my family.
Yeah. Yes. And what about the Callaways? Same question.
Well, I'll go first. As for me, working for the state, we've been teleworking since when everything shut down last March, and then about March of this year, I started going in 1 day a week because of the position I'm in. Some stuff had to be taken care of, and so. But it's weird because when I'm in the building, I might see 3 people. So what everybody right now, with the state being telework, there's nobody downtown. Downtown is, when I say empty, there's people down there, but if you normal business downtown in 2018, 2019, you would know downtown is busy. So when you're down there and you probably see 3 people the whole time you're there, it's just a weird feeling. We still mask up. When I'm in my office and my door is shut, I can take my mask off, whatever. But if anytime I go outside the office, copy or anything, I would have to mask up. There's talk about us going back to a hybrid mode in the end of July. A certain percentage of the office would go to hybrid. And then by the end of August, it would bump up from 30% up, I think, close to 50%. But we still are looking at a large percent of our workforce being telework, working from home. And so it's just different. So right now, I'm a little bit comfortable going in the office because, like I said, there's nobody there. But I think as we get more and more in the office, you want to be more precaution because you don't know what they are doing outside the workplace, who they're around, are they all vaccinated? They can say they vaccinated, but we don't know if they're vaccinated or not. So I just want to be careful going forward. Like Sherry said, you leave it up to God. We do what we're supposed to do, and the rest of it is up to God. And so that's how I look at it.
Yeah. Yes.
No, me. I guess I'm not per se as nervous about the health risk of going back to work. I spent the majority of this school year in total remote mode. And when we finally did come back in February, it was kind of like that vaccination was kind of happening simultaneously. So most people were getting vaccinated. We were kind of later than some of the other districts as far as going back to a hybrid mode. So I think for me, and then returning next year for 5 days, my standpoint is I'm more concerned about the social emotional learning piece with a lot of our kids. A lot were by themselves for that whole duration of remote learning. It was very, very difficult. I had some kids who were very anxious. I had some that were, needed counseling, depressed. So all of those things were just kind of like a backlash of the whole pandemic. And some of that even going back into 5 days, although a lot of kids are excited about that, being all together. I know with that, that's going to, it's still going to be, there's so many gaps that I'm sure that I'm going to have to be more intentional with, whether I'm using literature or helping them regulate emotions and, self-monitor. I'm more thinking about that piece because it's just affected so many of the kids in different ways. And how do I meet all those needs and meet their academic needs? Because I feel like there's a lot I got to kind of target before I even get to that, academic content.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it was already tough for educators before the pandemic. So, you already had to be the teacher, the counselor, the nurse at times. You already had to do a lot of things with your students. And now you're adding this new layer where you have kids that, some of them have been traumatized by this whole situation. And having to deal with their new normal and trying to educate them, it's going to be tough going back to work as an educator, or for all of us to be able to provide the services that are needed. So
yeah. I always say we've all experienced some form of trauma associated with this. So it is going to be really important to pay attention to that, especially for educators with students. So I believe thank you for that, for answering that question and for that conversation. I believe our media team has a video that they are going to cue. We'll go ahead and watch it. It's very brief, but there were a few additional points that Mr. Peoples made, so we want to make sure that we watch that and then get any final comments that our panelists have. Well, I believe we have the video.
Maybe.
Eleanor steals your heart. She was diagnosed at 5 weeks old, a type of leukemia, and it's associated with Down syndrome.
Might be a different video. That's okay. It's okay.
We're just about at the end of our time together, so we'll just go ahead and wrap up with final comments. So just want to go around and see if there's anything else that you want to share, or anything that we left out as we were talking about COVID. So any last words that you have?
Shall we start? I guess we can start. Well, first I want to say it's been lovely seeing you all and talking to you all today. So that's a great treat. I think for me, I will say with this whole COVID situation, something that I have definitely learned is to, again, do my part. That's something that we say every day for summer intervention is today is a new day. I will work hard and I will do my part. Now let's start. So it's very important that we take it upon ourselves to do what we can to protect ourselves and protect those around us, so that we can continue to do some of those things that we might consider normal, but also to have an open mind that our normal that we remember, some things may need to change, and change is good. Change is not always bad. So to not be afraid of a new normal, but to embrace it, because there are things that we have learned over these past years, different months here, and to take those things into consideration and grow from there, not really to dwell on the past, but say this is something that's new. What can I embrace here and move on with hope from that? So.
Well said, Sherry.
Yes.
Thanks, Keisha.
James, did you have anything before we move on to the Callaways?
Yeah, I was just real quickly. I was going to say, I mean, strike up a conversation with a neighbor. I mean, now that we know it's lower risk, to have a conversation outdoors and stuff. For example, we got a neighbor that lives over there, and last summer I remember started just talking from across the street. Wasn't sure how close we could get things, but honestly, I think that's one thing that helped us both. He's got a large family. We got a family. Just to stay connected to other human beings, you know what I mean? You feel as though, man, I'm trapped in the house. As Brother Bing was talking about earlier, just trying to be safe, right? And make sure that others are being taken care of as well. But I mean, there's nothing wrong with being friendly. There's nothing wrong with saying hello. There's nothing wrong with, again, having a conversation from one sidewalk to the next, it's going to help you to realize that the day's going to come where we're able to do more things. We're able to venture out more, and I think that human interaction, especially even for our young people, is key. As they've been, in the house, as Keisha was saying earlier, things they've been, at home learning, whatever else you want to call it. It's been tough for them and for us as parents. Just again having a conversation, saying hello, it goes a long way in things. It's going to help us to feel a little bit more optimistic, about what God is doing right now and what's going to happen in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Be optimistic.
Yes.
That is important.
Yes.
All right, Callaways, any party words? Not party, parting words.
Well, like Sherry said, it was great to see everyone. We do miss the camaraderie of getting around people, just laying our eyes on everyone. So it's great to see everybody. And just as, like you said, the new normal, let's just embrace it and go forward and just see where God is taking us. All we can do is just lean on Him. When we are at our end of our ropes, just remember God got us. So, that's how we got. That's how I'm looking at things at this moment. Yes, this was a crazy time period. We are starting to come out of it, but to be able to stay out of it, we have to come together and do what we need to do as a whole. With the masking, social distance, whatever. As they continue to lift the different criteria and things, still be cautious. Don't just go willy-nilly and just say we're done with everything. Let's be cautious as we go forward, and because we don't want to go backwards. So, as we go forward, let's continue to do it, but do it cautiously.
Oh. The only thing that's really coming to mind with me, and and it's not so much on the safety of everything, but I would say, we need to get back to self-care and whatever, with us being, shut up, closed up in the house and not really having interaction, kind of like what James was saying, communicate with others, do some things that, make you happy or to bring you joy or peace, because that mental peace is really, really serious, especially if you're somebody like me who's used to interaction. So just kind of getting back to some things and, self-discovery and, finding ways to, have a little fun and bring a little joy, even in the midst of such a dark time and such a challenging time that we've all experienced. So,
yeah, very, very well said.
Yes.
I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, I'm pretty sure Dr. Wise said this, but if it wasn't him, I know he was thinking it. This is an opportunity where you can either build or break. And there are a lot of people that have chosen to allow this to break them for whatever reason. And I've just seen it from the beginning of the pandemic. This is the time to build and to really learn some new skills. As James said earlier, get to know your neighbors, safely. If they're across the street, wave at them. Get outside and do something different, but make sure it's safe. Do things that you love, but again, just doing it all safely. It's important because, to Keisha's point, when your mental goes south, it affects everything else. And when you're not happy, it makes living tough. And for me, being happy is a choice. It's not, you can choose to be sad if you want to, but why do that? You can choose to be happy. Find some things that make you happy and do those things as long as it's safe. And there's plenty to do. And if you don't have any ideas, call a friend. Somebody give you an idea to do something fun. But there isn't an excuse to sit around and be sad and bored. There are things that you can do where you can have fun. So Chafin's, Callaway's, we thank y'all. Y'all both couples said this, but we can agree. It was great seeing y'all. I have laid eyes on the Chafin recently, but I haven't seen the Callaway other than when y'all sing on Sunday. So it's great to see y'all here.
Yes.
It's just really good to have this conversation with you all. So thank y'all for being a part today, being authentic and sharing, your perspective on what's happening. As always, we thank Dr. Wise and First Lady Wise for allowing us to have this ministry and this time to talk with folks. And then also want to thank the media ministry for their work behind the scenes. We actually want to make sure that folks know we're going to do this again on Thursday, July 15th at 7 p.m. We don't know what the topic is yet, but we're going to have a topic ready for you all at the next counseling couple session. So again, thank you all for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
We will see you all very soon.
Bye.
Good to see everybody.
Are we off?
I don't know.